Would you like to have the ability to automate and connect all the different apps that you are using as a law firm in one central place? In this video, I will showcase Integromat, a powerful automation platform that will allow you to connect all the services that you are using and to process your data. I'll also explain why I believe that it is a better alternative compared to Zapier. Let's get going. Let's jump onto the Integromat's website and see some of the features that this automation platform will provide. First of all, we'll be able to connect all the apps in a very visual format using these bubbles. Some of them will be triggers, which will actually start the execution of our process, and others will be actions. For each action or trigger, we will be able to have detailed information on each step, understanding how our data flows through the process. We'll also, just as in Excel or Google Sheets, be able to use some functions and do mathematical operations. We'll have the flexibility of choosing where we want to get our data from, either from the current trigger or from past executions. We'll also be able to route our process and do conditional logic based on certain parameters that we get from our data. We'll also be able to handle errors and perform different types of actions depending on what type of error we get. We'll also be able to use aggregators and iterators, an extremely powerful feature with which we'll be able to cycle through different sets of data and aggregate them in one in order to pass on to the next step. Finally, we'll be able to connect almost everything with HTTP requests and custom webhooks, even if the app is not directly available on the Integromat marketplace. In terms of pricing, you'll be able to start out with a free plan with 1,000 operations already included. As you scale up, you'll get more operations and a higher limit to the data transfer. Additionally, the minimum interval on which triggers are executed will get reduced. For example, the basic plan has a refresh interval of 5 minutes. Additionally, as you buy any of the paid plans, you'll get access to some of the premium apps that are not available on the free plan. Let's now talk about why I believe that Integromat is a better alternative compared to Zapier. There are 3 main reasons for this. The first one, and most important, is cost. As you have seen, Integromat can be more than 10 times cheaper compared to Zapier. This is not such a big issue if your operations or tasks are in a hundreds range, but as you scale up, the difference really becomes noticeable. Second, the user interface of Integromat is much easier to use. And that means that you'll be able to develop and update your scenarios much faster, saving you time. It also means that your colleagues or yourself will take less time to actually learn the interface. And last but not least, Integromat provides you more flexibility in terms of operations. It provides functions such as error handlers and aggregators and iterators which are not available on Zapier, giving you more flexibility in terms of what kinds of operations you can perform. Now, there is also a downside to Integromat, and that is the availability of applications. As Integromat is a newer company, they don't yet have as many integrations as Zapier, but they are growing every day. You can check out which apps are available on the Apps and Services part on the Integromat's website. It is also worth to mention that even if Integromat doesn't have a specific app that you are looking for, you may still be able to automate it using custom webhooks and HTTP requests, in case that you have the technical knowledge or have an expert in your team that is able to set that up. Let's now build our first automation with Integromat. For this tutorial, we'll be connecting JotForm, a form software, to Clio, a case management software. I have already created a simple form on JotForm. It just has 3 fields: the name of the client, the email of the client, and finally, the name of the matter that we want to add to Clio. Let's now head over to Integromat and start building our scenario. Create new scenario. And the first thing that we'll have to do is to add the trigger of our scenario. Let's search for JotForm. And the trigger that we're going to use is watch for submissions. As you're able to see, it has 2 labels: instant and acid. Instant means that the trigger will be executed as soon as we get a new submission, irrespective of the minimum interval that you get in your pricing plan. Acid means that we'll be able to revert it back to a previous state in case that the operation fails. Not as important in this case. The first thing that we'll be able to do in here is to actually add the connection to our JotForm account. So let's do that. Let's name it JotForm. And let's add the connection. In here, we'll need to add the API key, which you can find by heading over to the JotForm website, Settings, API, and here create a new key. It is important to mention that you need to change the permissions from read access to full access. Otherwise, the Integromat integration will not work. Let's copy the API key and paste it over here. And now we are able to choose the form that we want to connect. Let's press save. And just like that, our trigger is set up. Over here below, we have some options. We can define the scheduling of our scenario in case that it doesn't depend on a specific trigger. Then we'll be able to save the scenario, choose some extra settings, add notes, auto-align our bubbles, get some help, and finally use some of the tools that Integromat provides. We'll also be able to press this button, run once, and in this case, our trigger will wait for submission. So let's head over to our form and submit one with this data. Let's press submit. And if we head back, we'll be able to see that we got that data over here already. Let's press this bubble. And in here, we'll be able to see all the data that we get. If you now press request, we'll be able to see all the specific fields from the form, such as the first name, last name, and the matter name. Great. Now, before we create a new contact or matter in Clio, let's actually check if we already have a client with that email already in our system. To do that, we first have to connect our Clio account. So the action that we'll perform is actually searching for a contact. And let's now add a connection. Let's choose the region. And the process here is a bit different than with JotForm. We just need to sign in into our account and then allow access. Once that is done, we can now set up our search. Let's search any of the contacts that we have, but those that have an email. And the query that we're gonna search for will actually be the emails that we got from JotForm. So we can choose from these fields that we get from our previous step, and let's choose email. Fantastic. We don't really have time to explain all the other options, so for now let's just continue. We are able to test out just this step in order to make sure that it works correctly. So let's do that. Right click and then run this module only. Let's put the email that we want to use for our query and press OK. Let's see what we get. As you can see, the total number of bundles that we get is 0, meaning that this step has not found any of the contacts in our system with this particular email. So now let's split our process, and if we have actually found a contact, create a matter directly. Otherwise, first create the contact and then create the matter. We can do this with a router in the flow control. Router, and let's add it over here. It will now split into two. And in here on the branches, we'll be able to define the filters that decide where our process will direct. So let's set up a filter, and the label will be contact exists. The condition that we'll have is that the total number of bundles that we get in the third step is not equal to 0. Otherwise, the other filter will be that the contact does not exist. And the condition will be that the total number of bundles that we have found is indeed 0. Let's start out with the lower one. Let's create a new action of create a contact. The type will be person, and the first name and last name we'll take from the first step, from our JotForm. So name, first name, and here name, last name. Let's also include an email address that we got from the JotForm. And mark it as default. Press OK. And now yet again we can test out this step. Run this module. We'll define the email, the first name, and the last name. Press OK. Great, the step has been executed successfully. And now as the output, we get the contact ID of the newly created Clio contact. If we head over to Clio and refresh, we'll be able to see that we indeed have created a new contact with the corresponding email. Let's now create a new action of actually creating a new matter in Clio. We'll go to matters, create a matter. As the contact ID, we'll be able either to choose from a fixed value from the contacts that we already have in the system, or map it to a contact ID that we got from a previous step. In this case, let's get the contact ID that we got from step 5, when we actually created the contact, so that it is dynamic. And as the description, we'll use the value that we got from JotForm. Meta name. The type will be hourly rate, and let's press OK. Let's run this module. Again, the meta name will be, say, business dispute, and the contact ID we can get from here. Press OK. And just like that, we have our matter created. If we head over to Clio, into matters, we'll be able to see it over here. Let's now set up the matter creation for the other branch, when the contact already exists. Before we do that, we'll first have to run the search step yet again to actually get all the fields that we'll need in order to build up this workflow. As right now, the only output that we have from here is the total number of bundles is 0. So let's rerun this module with, again, the same email. And that way, we can already use all of these fields in this branch over here. As logically, we won't be able to use the fields from step 5 or step 6 in this branch, as the flow has already diverted from there. Let's go to Clio Manage, create a matter, and follow the same procedure. The contact ID will be a mapping to, in this case now step 3, the contact ID. The description will be from the jot form, and the type will be hourly rate. Great. Now we have everything set up. In case that you have moved around the blocks and want to align them, you can just use this button over here, and Integromat will automatically align them together. Great. Let's turn on our flow. We'll run the scenario immediately as soon as we get a new form submission. And let's test it out. Let's head back. Let's save changes to our flow. And let's go to our form that we have submitted before. And now put new values. Submit. And if we head back to Integromat and refresh the list, we'll be able to see this execution over here. Let's go into details. And as you can see, this branch has not been activated as that contact was not yet in the system. And we have actually created successfully a new contact and a new matter. Let's check it out in Clio. We have the new contact, and we have the new matter associated with it. Let's now head back again to our form and now submit a new matter for the same client. Press submit. Head back to Integromat. And as you can see, it was a success. And this time around, the lower branch was not activated as we already had the contact in the system, but instead we have just created a new matter. Let's go back to Clio. No new contacts. But in the matter, we have a new matter for the same client. As you can see, our workflow is working successfully. Now, this was just a quick overview of what Integromat can do. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel in order to keep updated about new tutorials and tips and tricks. I hope that you have found this video useful. If you'd like our team to help you in your digital transformation, check out our services on our website, automationforlawyers.com. We offer several options. One of them is hourly consulting with an automation expert from our team, and another is custom project development. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.